Today join me for a plein air session to paint bluebells in the woodland. Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I have something very special for you in store. As you know, April is the season of bluebells, and although they are very common in the UK, they are very hard to come by in France. So imagine my delight when on my last dog walk I stumbled upon this beautiful scenery here and saw that there was nearly a carpet of bluebells starting to form in this particular part of the woodland. Which is very peculiar because I've been coming here for the last nearly 3 years actually, and they have never been there before. And so I wanted to jump on this joyous occasion in order to paint my very first bluebells on plein air. And this will also be the first plein air session of the year. So let's get to it, but before we start I just wanted to talk you quickly through the process here. So I will probably make a mix between something that is realistic looking and a more colorful and a more symbolist interpretation of the scene. So it will be very much inspired by the composition that we will find here, but I will probably exaggerate some colors and make the bluebells pop more, so inject some blues into this painting. And whilst we are on the topic of blues, I actually wanted to also use this occasion in order to try out a new color that I acquired literally yesterday when I was in Paris. I've popped into the historic Sennelier store, which is in central Paris, and there is where I found a very special color. I will show it to you. And this is the beauty that I'm talking about. As you can see, it is something called interference blue. As you might imagine from this little strip of color here on top of the paint tube, this will be a beautiful luminous blue that is changing its color. It is opalescent and has a little shift to it in between turquoise to ultramarine and maybe violet. And I think this will add so much more interest to the scene if used in order to accentuate the magic that the bluebells will have in the forest. Before we get into it, I wanted to announce real quickly that Ninfa Fluide Gallery is going to be 2 years old on the 22nd of April. Yes, it's already been 2 years of this beautiful adventure. So first of all, I wanted to thank all of those who accompanied me on my artistic journey, my friends, family, and of course collectors who made it possible for me to live my dream. And I also wanted to benefit from the occasion in order to launch a little sale both on my website and my Etsy store. Everything will be 50% off, and that means both original oil paintings and lino prints throughout the birthday weekend and the day itself. So basically from Saturday the 20th of April to Monday the 22nd up until midnight, of course. And of course I will leave both links to the website and my Etsy store below in the description box. So if there is any artwork in particular that you like, there's no time like the present. I start by choosing a light layer of golden green as the base for my painting. I wanted to create a warm spring light peeking through the undergrowth, which would create a more joyful atmosphere. I start working on my composition by positioning the trees and giving the grasses in the middle grounds a bit of movement to avoid the whole painting looking a bit too flat. I also don't cover the whole of the woodland floor with grasses, but leave some bits where the earth is shining through. Remember, we are not in the middle of summer when the grasses are high, so it is important to not get carried away here. At the end, I decide to go over the background with the iridescent blue to avoid having a too strong contrast, because I'm looking for a more blurred look. And this is the final result for today. I don't think that we can push it any further than that because of the setting sun, so I'm losing light quite rapidly, as you can maybe see already for yourself. So we will pause it here, and I have, as always, taken a photograph of the scene so that when going back to my studio I can have both the impression, my memory of this place, and a good start, as well as an accurate photograph of the location, so that combining both of them I will be able to continue in a coherent and harmonious way that is a good continuation to what we've built today. And on this note, I would suggest you follow me back to the studio in order to finish this painting. Back in the studio, I wanted to bring the trees in the background back a little more, but this time varying the color more to allow the background to stay muted. To do so, I went into blue-gray and light blues, adding a bit of leaves here and there. I start varying the colors in the bluebells more as well, and bringing in some highlights into the woodland floor where the light would fall. I was starting to feel like there was not enough of a visual separation between the fore, middle and background, so I decided to outline the trees in a very Van Goghian manner. Afterwards, I could blur those standing further away to create a feeling of depth. Now we are going further into details by paying more attention to the brushwork. I'm picking up a textured stiff brush to paint the single grasses, going from the darkest to the lightest color in the grasses. It is important to avoid being too repetitive in the pattern. Nature often looks way more irregular than what a human hand would naturally draw. I regularly try to bring in the different colors from the grasses into the background to tie the whole scene together visually through the color scheme. Finally, I bring some more texture into the trees, drawing in the lines into those standing closest to the viewer to imitate bark. I'm picking up a dense round brush to bring some details into my bluebells as well. I felt like the round form would be a nice contrast to the slim lines of the grasses. I also felt like the horizon line was falling a bit to the right bottom, so I tried to rectify it by bringing the bluebells high up. As a final stage, I went back into the iridescent blue and added some accents to the background to imitate the effect of a very diffused light of a backlit scene. This is the final result. I hope you like it as much as I do. I do feel like I did manage to create the atmosphere that I was looking for, like this really golden spring-like sunlight that comes through the undergrowth in the forest. This was not, of course, technically the case that evening when we were in the woods. So this is, I believe, artistic license, and where you see the potential of a place, you feel its atmosphere, and you make something else of the reality of this very pragmatic and physical reality that you have before your eyes. At least this is how I like to work. I created some harmony in the tones between the clear blue and the bluebells and the reflection on the trees. It's not technically a reflection, but my thinking here was that, you know, that feeling when the light is coming out into the undergrowth and you do not really distinguish the single tree trunks and the single small slim trees, but they somehow become these like milky grayish shadows, and this creates such a dreamy backdrop to the scene that you have before your eyes. This is what I was going for, at least. So I did not want them to be this dark mass in the background. It would have been a bit oppressing, I believe, but also would distract from the real scenery here, whereas now it is just a nice continuation of the blue magic that is happening in the bluebells. At the end of the day, I used much less of the iridescent blue than I initially anticipated, because it does brighten the blue underneath up quite a bit. So I did use it in the highlights of the bluebells, but mostly, and this is where it was not a conscious choice from the beginning, in the highlights of the trees. So I feel like it helps create this very luminous atmosphere in the backdrop where the light is coming from and streaming into the scenery. So yeah, I did like using it, and I think I might think about other ways of applying this color in different other settings. So you definitely will be seeing me use it in the future. And then I wanted to make a special mention to one brush that I ended up using that I did not even mention in the beginning, which also was a recent purchase. Well, I purchased it at the same time as I did the iridescent color whilst I was in Paris. This is the one. This is the hero of this painting. I don't know how well you can see it. I hope you can. I've never seen a brush of this form before. It is a Da Vinci dry brush, and as you can see, it is a very dense, like round, stipply brush. It is not a doe foot one. It is more dense. It is actually closer to my Pro Arty round buffer brushes, but it's not quite the same form. So this one is really, really round, and this is what I used to create the colors in the bluebells, which is interesting because it allowed me to give them a round form. And I did want to play with the contrast of texture here, because the grasses obviously are very stem-like, and your brushwork is precise, fine, and, well, not vertical, but you're drawing in lines basically, right? And then I wanted the bluebells really to stand out, not only through the color but also through the form. I mean, I did not do a realist painting, so we do not have their very specific form, but I wanted them to stand out through their form as well, and this is why I chose to use this round brush. And if you look closely, this is what you see. The bluebells are arranged in the grasses through those very round forms, and I think that this ended up working really nicely and adding to to them being recognizable for what they are and not just blue shadows or like random flowers in the woodland. Now I hope you enjoyed this mixed session of painting in plein air and then finishing it up in the studio. Thank you so much for joining me for this video, and as always I hope to see you very soon in my next one. Until then, have a lovely morning, afternoon or evening wherever you are in the world. Cheers guys!